Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This video is brought to you by Smiley Face Coffee. Wake up with a smiley face, the official coffee of the Lost Genre community. Go check it out, the link is in the description below. Now let's get started with today's first story. This post is from the subreddit Relationships and it's by user Deleted. Me, 35 male, with my lady friend, 31 female. She made me cake and I had a panic attack. Help? I currently have a beautiful woman in my house cooking, cleaning, and being super sweet to me, and for some reason it's making me all kinds of anxious. So much so that I had a panic attack when she attempted to initiate sex and I slept on the couch as a result. What the hell is wrong with me? I met Alice a few years back at a work conference. There was an instantaneous spark and we spent an entire night talking about everything until the sun came up. You know when you just click with someone and it feels like they will be important to you? It felt like that. At some point during the evening, she let me know that she had just gotten married. So I just enjoyed talking with her and we went our separate ways after the conference ended. Then, last year, at a different conference, we reconnected, and it was great, only this time she let me know her marriage was over. We hooked up, exchanged information, and started talking more and more. Interestingly enough, both of us were looking to move to the same city and had been independently working on making that happen for some time. Eventually, I got a job in this city and moved across the country, staying with her for one night during my travels. Alice came out here before the holiday to hang with some friends, but we spent a couple of days together as well. After she went back, we missed each other a lot and decided she would visit me again, but the plan was that she'd also use her time out here to look for jobs and an apartment with her friend. However, in the time between booking the flights and the trip itself, she and the friend managed to find both a place and a job. So now she's out here just hanging out at my place while I'm working. Now, yesterday I came home from work and Alice was baking a cake for me in her underwear. My dog had been walked, the dishes had been done, and dinner was almost ready. After delicious food and cake, she gave me a back rub and tried to initiate sex, and I, like a total a-hole, had a panic attack. Like the third one I've ever had, in response. She was clearly disappointed, but also really understanding. She didn't pressure me or make me feel bad. She just offered support and then left me alone while I dealt with it. I smoked some weed and calmed down, and Alice fell asleep. Reddit, what the hell is wrong with me? Most people would kill for the kind of treatment I got yesterday, but when I came home to all of that, I was overwhelmed. All I could think about was breaking things off or running away. We haven't discussed labels at all, but I feel this humongous weight of expectations and it's freaking me out. On top of that, I have some reservations and concerns about being an us, which I think is pretty reasonable. But she tells me that everything will work itself out and that I just need to learn to enjoy the moment. What's my problem here? Why are such nice gestures from a kind, sweet woman who is obviously really into me freaking me out so much? Why can't I just embrace this and enjoy the moment? And what's up with that panic attack? Well, OP, as I've stated many times, I am not a mental health professional or even close to being one, but I'm gonna give it a shot from my ignorant perspective and point of view. I think you said it right. You're overwhelmed. Here's what I think. You've kind of idolized this woman for a long time. You clicked with her. She's fantastic. Everything about her is great. And you freaked out. This was a person who used to be married, so you had no chance with her, and all of a sudden she's here in your house in her underwear cooking for you and it's all great and rosy, and it was too much for you. Maybe this is your subconscious saying, dude, slow down, take a breath, the both of you. These are a lot of changes in her life as well. I mean, she just got divorced, she's moving into a new town with a new job, with a new roommate, and apparently a new boyfriend of sorts. And I think she's half right. I think you should enjoy the moment, but so should she. It sounds to me like she's rushing too much into this couple's living. I know she's just staying with you while you're looking for a job, but maybe take some time out to get to know each other better. I don't know, play some chess, go to a museum, go to a movie, something, go to dinner, not just hang out in your house and have sex and eat cake. Although that does sound like a lot of fun, but I think you guys need to get to know each other a lot more before you jump into this kind of routine. Anyway, I feel my commentary has kind of been all over the place, but like I said, I'm not a professional, so I couldn't explain your panic attack. All I could think of is you're overwhelmed, and that maybe you should listen to that. And what do you guys think about OP's situation? What do you think is going on? What would you do if you were in her shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Rabbity Rabbits says, maybe it was a lot of little and some not so little things. The stuff you already mentioned, weight of expectations, concerns about the relationship, etc. Plus maybe part of throwing off the stress of the workday is associated with your after work routine, walking the dog, making yourself dinner, etc. Since she had done that already, you didn't really get your transition or decompression time after work. For some people, that's really important. Life after work. I need what I call my zoning out time, where I'm listening to music and surfing the internet. Some people need a decompression shower to transition to after work mode. So maybe it was just a perfect storm of a few things. Annette Shizzy says, I think anyone in this situation would be confused. Your relationship to this woman is currently all over the place, kind of like my commentary. She is flitting from tenant, friend, and girlfriend and enjoying the benefits of each. Does she pay rent? If not, you need to have a discussion with her about when she will find a place of her own. What are some of the reservations you mentioned having? And Opie responds, tenant? She's just visiting me for a couple of days. Then she goes back to her old city to pack everything up and to move. She's already found her own place in my city and is moving in about a month. Warbeak Spara says, first question. What are you afraid of? Anxiety like that, what is it that you're fearing? Try to put words to it and you'll start tackling it. Is it possible having found a person that might be a long-term partner and it's scary as hell? Is it because you don't think you deserve to be cooked dinner? Additional information from OP's comments. I think instant domesticity is definitely part of it. I've never lived with a partner, so coming home to all of that was just a lot. The thing is, all of the niceness was a sweet gesture meant to make me feel good after a long day of work. She's not staying indefinitely, she's here for 1 week, so it's not fear of her, like moving in or anything like that. Also, I invited her to stay with me, so it's not like she invited herself. Here is my list of concerns. 1. She's freshly divorced, and I worry she's rushing into a new relationship without rediscovering herself or cleansing the palate or anything like that. 2. I'm in recovery from alcohol abuse, and I'm sorting through a lot of crap with that. I worry that I'm not really able to care for her the way she deserves, since my priority right now is my own recovery. 3. We're both new in town, and I worry that we're going to gloom on to each other and avoid finding our own hobbies, friends, and lives. The old relationship crutch. 4. I feel like my reaction is an indication that I'm less into us than she is, and that makes me nervous. Like, she's clearly more invested than I am, clearly more comfortable as well. 5. I don't feel like I deserve love or special attention. This has always been a feeling made worse by my alcohol abuse and recovery. I'm working on it in therapy, but it's especially acute right now. And 6. She's also kind of intense. I definitely like her a lot and do feel a connection that is not run-of-the-mill. But she seems infatuated with me. That infatuation makes me a bit uncomfortable, but I don't know if that is normal or a symptom of my previous bullet point. I realized that I gave the impression that she was dismissive of the issues. She's not ignoring me. She acknowledges most of these issues and agrees that they could lead to bigger ones. But she also says, and I agree, that we have a special kind of connection, and that has to count for something. Honestly, reading my list back to myself, I get the impression that neither of us is ready to be in a relationship. It sucks. She's a great girl and I do like her a lot, but at the same time, if it were right, I don't think I'd be freaking out so much about it. Can't force this stuff. Okay, well, the community gave OP some pretty decent advice, I'd say, but having read the list of OP's concerns, it becomes a lot more clear why he had that panic attack. It's like all of it together. I would say particularly point number 5, the fact that OP feels like he doesn't deserve any kind of love or any kind of, relationship, and then comes home to a lady that he really likes cooking for him and tending to him. Yeah, that freaked him out. And I also agree with his last point where he says that he gets the impression that neither of them is ready to be in a relationship. Maybe they are right for each other, but it's just not the right time. Anyway, it's time that we move on to the update to see what happened next. But before that, I'd like to draw your attention once again to the Latin American harvests from Smiley Face Coffee, where you'll find 8 different single source coffees from different parts in Latin America. Go ahead and check them out. The link is in the description below and on the top right corner of the screen right now. Now, let's continue with the update. My original post wasn't big, but I received some helpful perspectives and feedback and wanted to post an update. The short version of the issue is that I had a lady friend visiting and being awesome to me, but that was giving me anxiety and I initially didn't understand why. So I sat down with Alice the night I made my post and I had a tough conversation. I told her my anxieties about the situation, specifically that I felt like a rebound and was overwhelmed by everything, including how fast we were moving. I also told her about needing to focus on my recovery and about how intensely she had been coming across. I also mentioned that I was worried that our relationship was going to be a major distraction from her getting her own life together once she moved here full-time in a month. Alice shared similar concerns about the speed at which things seemed to be moving. But the point that resonated most with her was the notion that she was falling into old dating habits with me and had already been backburnering her own plans, wants, and needs in order to accommodate what she thought I wanted. Apparently, she put her whole life on hold for her ex-husband, and resentment over that fact had been a major factor in their divorce. She hadn't really noticed that she was doing this again until I pointed it out. The upshot of this conversation was that yes, we do have an incredible connection and really value each other as people, but now is really not the time for either of us to get serious about dating. Both of us are in transitional periods with a lot of uncertainty, and as a result, we're grasping, her more than I, for something stable. Since we're not in the place to date, we took romance and sex off the table and focused instead on building our friendship. She was definitely a little bummed, especially about the end of sex, but she respected my needs and agreed with my assessment. We had a great couple of days running around the city together as buds. I really do appreciate and value Alice as a friend, and I'm glad to have her in my life. For me, once the sex and relationship stuff was taken off the table, my anxiety completely disappeared, further confirming that we made the right decision. She signed her lease, I met her new roommates, and we got to do a bit of exploring in our new city. We walked many miles, ate delicious food, and watched some really dumb movies together. There were a couple of moments of sexual or romantic tension, but they were short-lived and we seemed to move on quickly and easily. So that's it. Honesty and communication won that day, and I ended up with a new close friend. There's a possibility of us reconnecting romantically at some point in the future, but we'll be fine whether or not that happens. I would be lucky to end up with someone as great as Alice. If it's right for her and me, it will happen. If not, it won't. Life's gotta happen for a bit first either way. OP's edit. I take issue with some suggestions that my establishment of boundaries is instead the practice of avoidance. The thing is that I'm in therapy and reiterated the story to my therapist last night. He felt that my ability to communicate my discomfort and establish a boundary was not only the correct move, but a big step forward for me since I have a history of suffering in silence and staying in romantic situations out of obligation. Point of fact, I usually avoid tough conversations with partners because I am nervous they will lead to hurt feelings or a breakup. That's not what happened this time. To those thinking that running away will make me feel less anxious, but it doesn't fix the problem, I ask, who is running away? Running away would be breaking things off completely with Alice and or avoiding communicating with her. Instead, I communicated. And we made the decision to focus on friendship rather than sex and romance, given our respective situations. It's possible that sex and romance can come back into the picture down the line, but it will only be if and when we both feel comfortable enough to do so. Intimacy or vulnerability was most definitely not making me anxious. I deal with those things regularly and with no issues. No, the cause of my anxiety in this situation was feeling obligated to respond in kind to Alice even though I wasn't there yet. I felt that I had to be physically intimate with Alice because the gestures were so grand and kind, but also too much too soon. That feeling of obligation references not only a past sexual trauma I went through, but also the pattern of my previous relationships, which I felt obligated to continue relationships much longer than I should have. Usually I just live in the moment when my head is screaming at me to back out. This time I decided to take the communicative approach and actually manage the elements that are triggering the anxious memory of my trauma and larger anxiety about being a people pleaser, rather than avoiding those feelings by ignoring them or drinking them away. At any rate, thanks for sharing your feedback. It's valuable, even if I disagree, and I appreciate the time you took to post. Well, OP, I'm going to call this a happy update because not only do you have a great friend with the possibility in the future to maybe, if you both are feeling it, become a partner. But the fact that you're getting out of your old cycle is just great. You're focusing on your recovery and you're tackling your demons one by one. Good for you, OP. So on that positive note, I'm going to wish you the best in the future, OP. Thank you so much for sharing and take care. Now let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance and it's by user A Bigger Hammer. How my dad didn't go to Vietnam. In 1969, my dad graduated from Rice University with a 5-year master's in chemical engineering. Edit, since so many commenters thinks he was some kind of rich kid, his parents both taught public school and he went to college on a full academic scholarship. The Vietnam War was raging, and although he and his classmates had all received deferments during their studies, their deferments were over and it was time for them to go before the draft board. Most of his classmates weren't worried because they were slated to see the Houston draft board, which had a reputation of handing out continued deferments like Halloween candy. However, my dad is from Oklahoma, which meant he had to be evaluated by the Tulsa Draft Board, which was much stricter. Dad had applied to the chemical engineering PhD program at Stanford and had been accepted with full stipend. He was excited to go, but first he had to get past the draft board. The Stanford faculty wrote a letter to the Tulsa Draft Board explaining that Mr. Hammer would be embarking on a research program that would greatly benefit the war effort and asking for another deferment. The Tulsa Draft Board wrote back in short order. Mr. Hammer had already benefited from the only deferment he was going to get, and thus he was to present himself to the Army Physical Examination Center post-haste. Dad was sad to lose his shot at a PhD, but not too sad because now he could marry my mom. He'd also had several job offers already, so he accepted an offer from Exxon and he and my mom got married. His superiors at Exxon wrote another letter to the Tulsa Draft Board explaining that Mr. Hammer was now gainfully employed in the oil and gas industry where he would be conducting engineering research that would greatly benefit the war effort and asking for another deferment. Just as quickly, the Tulsa Draft Board wrote back reiterating that Mr. Hammer was not going to receive another deferment and that if he didn't hurry up and get his Army physical, they might have to get the law involved. Disappointed, my dad went to his Army physical as scheduled. He's always been a healthy guy and he performed just fine on most of the examinations up until the very end when they measured his heart rate. It was over 100 beats per minute. "Well, we can't pass you with that," said the Army doctors, "but you're probably just nervous. Come back in 2 weeks and we'll give you another physical." "Nervous?" said my dad to himself. "I can work with that." For the next 2 weeks, my dad spent every spare moment basically teaching himself the opposite of meditation. He'd close his eyes and think of the most horrifying mental images he could, trying to drive his heart rate as high as possible. Finally, the day of the physical arrived, and things went as smoothly as before. He passed nearly everything with flying colors. But when it came time to measure his heart rate, once again, it was well over 100. The army doctors promptly diagnosed him with tachycardia, scored his physical at 4F, and sent him home. He's in his 70s now, and apart from his mysteriously high heart rate, which I inherited, he's always been in great cardiac health and still is. Well, OP, I don't know if this counts as a malicious compliance, and I also don't know much about the Vietnam War, but I do know one thing, that your dad wasn't in it. Thanks for sharing, OP, and take care. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out, so here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later, and also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.